Welcome everyone to another episode of Let's Make a Game. It has been a few weeks since the previous episode, but here we are right back at it and we want to add some more stuff to the game. So let's have first a look at what we have so far. Of course we have our guys which we can spawn wherever we want, and they will also collect the trees and leave some logs just laying around. We can also place down several objects which we haven't specified yet, but we can do that, and this will be like a building task for the survivors to execute. Now, as for the world generation, I would like to see some more stuff which is on the floor. For instance, some stone or some coal is something that we could add in today's episode. But I also want to prepare a script which actually shows us which resources are going to be required for each individual tile to build. The overall aim after that is that the villagers will be gathering the resources and bringing them towards where they are needed. And once all the resources are together, someone can actually build the thing. So today's goal is going to be adding some stone, adding some coal to the world generation, and also adding the required resources as a drawn sprite and variable on each individual building object we have right here. So yeah, that's what we are going to do today. Let's dive right into it. First, of course, what we want to do is create a new sprite. So let's have a look into the world objects. Yeah, I guess that's where we want to place it. Let's create a new sprite right here. And I think I want to call this sprite stone deposit. Now, the way we're gonna handle it is that the survivors will first have to hack it into bits and pieces of stone before they can actually transport it. But anyways, let's edit that sprite. We are gonna create a new sprite, and I think I'm just gonna have it 64 by 64 as per usual. And in the editor we're just gonna, I don't know, draw a simple stone pile structure, something around this. I don't know, that kind of looks weird, but it's gonna be alright. We're just gonna leave it at that for the time being. That's gonna be our stone deposit. Let's close this off and save it. And one more thing we want to add is, again, a new sprite. We call it sprite coal vein. We're gonna edit that bad boy 64 by 64 as per usual. And there we go. What do we actually want to do for a coal deposit? Maybe just make something a little bit blackish and have a few like coal samples stick out of the ground. And maybe we could arrange it so that the survivors actually have to build like a coal mine or something like that. Doesn't really matter for the time being. As per usual, graphics are all placeholders. We are more interested in the functionality, and once we have a solid game together, we can beautify it. Anyways, we have all of our world objects. We now need to make them into actual objects. Those are just sprites. And of course, if we want to deal with code, we preferably also want the objects, the corresponding objects. So let's just do that. And here we go. I already went ahead and created a object stone deposit as well as an object coal vein. And I linked them both, of course, to our sprites. Okay guys, so we do have our stone deposit and also our coal vein objects, but we don't have them yet spawned into the world. And of course, for that we're gonna open up our scripts and we're gonna check for our world generation. If you remember, this is one of our oldest scripts. I think we actually started with that one. So basically everything we want to add to the world generation will go in here. So let's have a look at it. Okay, so if you don't know what this all is, then just check back in the series for all of the world generation episodes. But right at the bottom below the finisher, we have all the different generations. For instance, the sand generation or the ocean generation, and of course also the tree generation. Now, we don't want to go with a too complex algorithm just yet, so what we are gonna do is just copy this baby and we're gonna paste it down below. We're gonna call this stone deposit generation. Of course, we also only want to do that on a grass tile set. We are gonna call a different variable, namely random stone deposit. We're gonna copy this down below. Now, we don't want as many stone deposits as we want trees, so we're just gonna go with maybe, let's say, 5%. And of course we want to spawn the object stone deposit. That's actually all we have to do just to simply generate it. Maybe let's have a look at it right away. I'm gonna switch over to the game and check out the world generation. And there we go, we now have about 5% stone coverage. Now, of course, there are mistakes such as this one. Maybe we should make the stones a little bit smaller, but at the moment I don't care that stones can actually overlap with the trees. It will matter once we want to actually hack them down into bits and pieces, because of course we want to be able to specify which object we are clicking on. But nevertheless, the basic idea was to mainly get a few other resources into play so that we can test things out on a larger scale. But let's get back to the script, and we are gonna copy this once more and paste it down below in order to spawn in the coal deposit, or we're gonna call this coal vein. Or maybe we should go with, you know, constant naming. I'm gonna call this deposit 2. So we will have to change the object name as well. But nevertheless, it should only spawn on grass tiles, and it's gonna be the coal deposit. And we're also gonna stick with a random number of 5. Instance create coal deposit, which of course at the moment doesn't exist yet, so maybe let's go ahead and fix that. We need to change the name of this guy into coal deposit. And of course I also want to change the name of my sprite into coal deposit. Yeah, I think that is much better if we stick with, you know, kind of a naming pattern. But nevertheless, in our script now it recognizes the name, which is good. So now we also have coal spawning in our world. Let's actually check this out. Of course we don't have the coal because I forgot to change that variable right here. Random coal deposit. There we go. And we can run the game once more, check it out. There we go. We do have random coal deposits and we have random stone deposits. Of course the coal is way too plentiful. As I mentioned before, the idea is that they can build a mine on it which can indefinitely mine. Or maybe we are gonna add another layer so they have to cave down or something. I'm really not sure yet. We will see where it will take us. But that's cool, we were able to actually add some more resources to the world, make it a little bit diverse. What we now want to do is actually apply to these categories. Once we place them down, we also want the required materials to be displayed, and for that we are going to create a new script. Well, so we have quite a few scripts already actually, so that we had to categorize them like hell, but what we didn't have so far is an object category folder. I have just made that with the script required resources draw. So this thing is going to be in the draw event of each object that we are placing down. So if we have a look at the objects, there should be a category building object, and right here on those guys we want to place the script in the draw event. Now I actually made this a little bit easier by making an object category parent. Let's actually have a look at that. Now on this object I have made everything the same as we had on each category individually, as you can see, but I also created a draw event with our resource required underscore draw. And now very important, you can see here the categories are all children of this object, which means everything that we have applied right here will also be automatically applied to the individual objects. All we have to do is open up the categories, and right here you can see object cat parent is the parent object, as you can see. So this is where you set it, and we don't have to apply anything to all of those guys. And of course that's a relief if we only have to change things right here. But nevertheless, let's have a look into that script. Okay, so the principle of this script is actually also going to be rather easy. Let's first give it a name. This is going to be the required resources for building objects. First of all, since it is in the draw event, we want to draw self. Otherwise it's not gonna be shown. Then let's make a bunch of categories. First one, of course, being category 1, option 1. Now, since this script is applied to all of the building objects, we first need to identify the object. And of course we're going to do that as we are used to from previous episodes by checking the object index for category 101. Just like that. And in here we want to specify the recipe or the required resources. Now let's say the recipe for object 1, which we don't know what it is yet, but we just can make a sample recipe, would be 1 times a log and maybe 1 times some stones. I mean, for now it doesn't matter because after all, I want the villagers or the survivors to process logs. Logs shouldn't be used in order to build stuff. They first need to be refined and after that we can build stuff. But unrefined logs and stones is all we have at the moment, so we're just gonna make a sample recipe out of it. But anyways, that means we need to define a bunch of variables. Let's say self.required logs is going to be 1 and self.required stone is going to be 2, whatever. Now we want to display that on the object itself, so we're gonna draw the resources. We want to set the color, maybe, I don't know, let's do white, because that's gonna be visible pretty well. And what we now need to do is draw a sprite, but we want to draw it stretched. I think I wrote it wrongly. Stretched. Yeah, there we go. What do we want to stretch? Well, we want to draw the sprite log. And be careful, you don't want to draw the object, you want to draw a sprite. We want to draw the image index 0 and we want to draw it on the X and Y position of global.tilesize divided by 2 and global.tilesize divided by 2. Now, of course, the global.tilesize divided by 2 meaning it's gonna be scaled halfway. That means we have space for 4 required resources, for 4 different resources. One on the top left corner, one on the top right, bottom left and bottom right. Since this is X and Y, it's gonna be on the top left corner. Anyways, we also want to draw a text for that sprite on the same coordinates, and the text is gonna be self-required logs. So once the survivors actually bring a log, this number will also change. Let's also draw the stones. Draw sprite stretched. Draw the sprite stone deposit. We want the image index 0 and this time we want to X plus global.tilesize divided by 2. You could also type just X plus 32, but as per usual we want to make it universal. Right now as it stands I could simply change the tile size if I wanted and the game would still work. Now the Y coordinate is still gonna be the same, we don't have to add anything to that, and of course we want to actually stretch it to be 32 by 32 pixels as well. Now let's see, did I make a mistake somewhere? Man, I cannot write stretched. Holy cow. But nevertheless, that is the code we want to go for. Let's also finish up with the text. We're gonna draw a text on X plus global.tilesize divided by 2 on Y, and it's gonna be self-required stones. There we go. I think it's time to actually test this out before we go any further. This is of course the basic frame for all of the different categories. We can then just copy it over and change all the recipe ingredients we require. So let's just save that off and we're gonna start the game once more. We are also going to go to category 1 and let's place one of those guys down. Oh no! So we actually got a mistake. I did write a variable absolutely wrong here. Required logs. Rec. There we go. Let's try this once more. And now we're gonna go down category 1, place an object, and here we go. We can see the resources that are required displayed on our building object. Isn't that just freaking awesome? And of course it will not work for other categories because we haven't defined the recipes for those guys yet. So that is actually great, and depending on what we have right here, the survivors should now be going and getting the materials, bringing them along, provided there are some in the immediate vicinity. I think overall I want the villagers to first bring stuff into a storage area, then start to refine it and shape it in its proper form. Only then they should use it as building materials. But we have established the basic principle of making recipes for the different objects, and I think that is a pretty successful and noble aim we achieved here. Anyways guys, I will leave it at that for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, have a great time and see you soon. Bye bye.